Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. Nagorno-Karabakh, the territory that is disputed over by Armenia and Azerbaijan, is back in the news here. There are conflicting news reports about what kind of military operations are going on either side. Russia has been pulled into it, asking for patience, and Turkey's Erdogan is making a lot of noise here. Dima, give our viewers just the basic background of what's going on here. This is what is known as a frozen conflict in the post-Soviet space, and it has been going on for 30 years now. Where do we stand now? Go ahead.
Well, it's an old story, basically, the animosity between Azerbaijanis and Armenians. Basically, during most of the 20th century, it seemed to be forgotten. I mean, there was a lot of atrocities during the weakening of the Russian state in the beginning of the 20th century. You know, both of these countries were parts of the Russian Empire. And when the Russian Empire weakened in 1919, 1920, there was a lot of atrocities on both sides. That has to be remembered. There is no angel and devil in this situation. Both sides, become very cruel when they're not included in some kind of a outside framework that would make them work together.
Like the Soviet Union.
Like the Soviet Union. Basically, the atrocities restarted when the Soviet Union started to get weaker in 1987, 1988. Unexpected to many people, this animosity erupted again. You know, the trigger was the decision of the population of this rather small region of Nagorno-Karabakh, which is legally a part of Azerbaijan, but which was populated by, the majority of inhabitants were Armenians, even though Azerbaijanis made up a significant part of the population. Right now, it's 160,000 people. Just to give you an idea, Armenia is slightly more than 2 million. Azerbaijan officially is 9 million, but about 2 million Azerbaijanis are most likely working or studying abroad, mostly in Russia, but also in other countries. So Azerbaijan is physically stronger. It's a bigger country. It has, greater resources militarily and financially.
Got a lot of oil.
Exactly. You know, the military budget of Azerbaijan is bigger than all of the budget of Armenia. But on the other side, Armenians are very motivated. They have won the war that basically started in 1987, and with breaks, it continued until 1994. 1994 was the moment when.
What is the status in Nagorno-Karabakh right now? What is its legal status, and what is its reality status, if I can say that?
Well, it's one of the so-called unrecognized states. So de facto, it is almost a part of Armenia. The several presidents of Armenia, several highest officials in the last, I would say, 20 years, were basically natives of Nagorno-Karabakh. But it's not recognized by anyone except Armenia. And if you look at the map, it's a very complicated situation, because Azerbaijan claims, with some right for it, that 7 regions, 7 districts of its territory are basically occupied by Armenia, because not only Nagorno-Karabakh itself, but also the surrounding area, the so-called security zone, as Yerevan calls it, the security zone is also controlled by the Armenian troops. But what's going on now? I think both sides, thank God, have not used the full scale of their firepower, because during the almost 30 years of hiatus in the war, both sides have amassed huge quantities of weapons. You know, Azerbaijan has some of the most modern weapons that it bought from Russia, from Israel. Russia has been trying to keep the balance of forces in the region. it has been selling weapons to both Armenia and Azerbaijan with a view to make them unwilling to start the hostilities because the losses would be too great. You know, it's like a balance of fear.
And Russia's official position is they want to see these two countries find a diplomatic solution. That is the prime objective that Russia would like to see. It's its neighborhood, after all.
Well, I think that Russia is sincere when it says that it's not interested in a conflict and that it wants both parties to kind of calm down and think about the consequences. The position of Turkey is a new, I would say, new element in this equation, which is not known exactly right now and which can really mess things up because in that war between 1987 and 1994, Turkey did not get involved, probably because it still respected the Soviet Union, or you know, the Turkish political situation was too messy. It didn't it didn't warrant a big, you know, it didn't warrant a big involvement in Transcaucasus. But Turkey was relatively quiet during the first war. Now, Mr. Erdogan says that, I quote, "We would support any action by Azerbaijan." What is it? You know, it's a blank check, you know.
Very, very unhelpful here. I mean, what's the interesting thing, too, is that, you know, this is one of three conflict areas. We have Nagorno-Karabakh, we have Syria, and we have Libya, and Russia and Turkey are on opposite sides on these issues here. So this is extremely unhelpful here. How does the Russians look at this here? I mean, you know, this is a third point where Erdogan is kind of drawing his line in the sand. I mean, the way I look at it is that he sees this as the bazaar and he wants to go in and haggle. Okay, it's just another opportunity, and I think it's a diversion, a distraction for the economic woes that Turkey has at home. Your take?
Well, I think that everyone is accusing the other side of being using this tragic situation as a distraction. You know, Armenians say that Azerbaijan started the war because of the war of clans in Baku. You know, that the Azerbaijani president Ilham Aliyev can only keep on to power by going to war. Azerbaijanis say the same about Armenia. Armenia had its color revolution several years ago, and the new leader, Nikol Pashinyan, managed to alienate, I would say, at least a part of Russian elite by openly quoting the West. But I don't think Russia in any way provoked these hostilities because we would be the primary losers. You know, if refugees appear, the first place they will go is Russia. And
from both countries.
Yeah, and both countries, as I told you, you know, the only periods when they were not at war is when they were included in some bigger international network. Russia, it used to be Russian Empire. Now it's the so-called Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, an organization that the West does not recognize. It pretends not to see it, but it's an organization of former Soviet republics, which helps them to maintain security on their territory. And CSTO is one of the few structures via which Azerbaijanis and Armenians can talk to each other and can come to acceptable solutions. On Erdogan's position, I think it's very much in the interest of the West, ideologically, I mean, not practically, of course, to see a quarrel between Russia and Turkey. And the Nagorno-Karabakh is one of the areas where they can achieve exactly that objective.
Well, I mean, Tima, that's a good point, but Erdogan is alienating his Western NATO partners as well at the same time. That's why I find it very interesting that he's willing to go into the foray of another conflict here when, you know, we have this contradictory policy coming out of Erdogan's government where he buys Russian arms. It really annoys the Americans because the Americans want all of NATO to buy American arms. And at the same time, like I said, Erdogan finds himself at odds in Syria and Libya, and now in this conflict here. So I can't see how it pays really any dividends except for complicating a situation that doesn't necessarily need to be complicated even more.
I mean, if we look at the way Western media reports on it, and if we look at the real picture, I think you will see this trend. You know, agree with me or not, I will tell you. The Western narrative is usually that these erratic dictators, they create problems, you know. Well, I think that erratic dictators, cults of personality are bad, but cult of hatred is much worse. So I agree, you know, Erdogan is not good. He is erratic, and he managed to alienate a lot of his neighbors. That's all true. But on the other side, if you look at the narrative of the Western press, they wanted Russia and Turkey to clash in Syria openly. You know, that was the policy. You know, they willingly reported on any situation that could kind of make Russia and Turkey quarrel. And Putin managed to avoid it. Yeah. I don't know how. He demonstrated huge diplomatic skills. Then they hoped that Russia and Turkey would clash in Libya. Libya, which had been made a mess, not by Turkey and Russia, but by Western countries, which toppled Gaddafi and which helped a new, completely incapable government to come to power in Libya. Now, if you look at the narrative, I'm pretty sure they will expect these two awful dictators, you know, to quarrel over Nagorno-Karabakh. I can just see it, you know. I can see how.
But this is, you know, you've given a good history here. My inclination is that neither Azerbaijan or Armenia really want this to go much further. Okay, both sides have made a point. Okay, it's a moot point. Okay, because nothing has been resolved. And my suspicion is, from what I hear from media reports, is that the Russian government is saying enough is enough. I mean, you're not going to go to war because you're going to alienate, you know, Russia in the process here. So it seems to me that there is what's in play now is going to be some kind of diplomatic skill to de-escalate, because, like I said, both sides have made their point without resolving anything. Go ahead.
Well, this is the likeliest outcome for which I think we should all hope for. But that's the point. It's a likely outcome, but it's not guaranteed, because when you have a war, and there is a small, I would say, imitation of war going on, you never know when and how it may spill into a general conflict. In fact, both countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, now have the resources to just destroy each other. I mean, if they use all of their weapons, there will be no Armenia, no Azerbaijan left, because you know, this is the difference with the period of the end of the Soviet Union, when the war actually started. At the time, they fought each other by self-made weapons, you know, home-produced revolvers. That was awful. That was a very cruel peasant war, if you want. But it was fought by not very destructive weapons. Now both countries have their budgets. They have their you know, organizations and special services buying destructive weapons from every possible country. So if they use all of their potential, they can destroy each other. But I hope they understand it. And life in Azerbaijan definitely improved in the last.
Yeah. But the sad thing is that there are outside powers that want to see this get worse, because it'll be, in their political logic, is bad for Russia. So here we go again. All right. Okay, Dima, thank you for joining us here. This was Dmitry Babich talking about Nagorno-Karabakh. And if you like this, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll have a lot more for you from the Gaggle.